You say you're tired, but here's a question worth asking. Tired from what exactly? Because there's two different kinds of fatigue. And if you're treating the wrong one, you can do everything right physically and still feel absolutely exhausted. So today I want to help you tell the difference, because getting this one wrong is a really common and costly mistake that I see a lot of midlife women making. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. Let me start by saying I want to be honest with you because I think this really matters. I am in a season of emotional fatigue right now. I'm navigating my father's declining health and everything that comes with elder care. I'm raising a 16-year-old kid, running a business, holding a marriage together, going through perimenopause, carrying the particular weight of midlife, which is its own thing, right? It's a real thing. None of that is really physical exhaustion. I'm sleeping. Like I know I rumble with my sleep for sure. But even when I don't get a good night's sleep, I do ensure that somewhere in the day I'm catching up. I'm getting a nap in. I'm moving my body. I'm eating well. And yet there's sometimes this fatigue in my bones that goes deeper than any level of physical exhaustion. And I'm not sharing that for sympathy, because I think a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I'm sharing it with you because I know you can relate. And I think it's important that we name it accurately, because naming things changes everything about how we respond to it. So physical fatigue is the body's response to physical demand. You trained hard. You didn't sleep enough, you're fighting an illness, you've been on your feet for 12 hours. Your muscles are tired, your energy reserves are depleted, and your body is begging for rest, for nourishment, for recovery. And the solution to physical exhaustion, physical fatigue, is relatively straightforward, even if the execution isn't so straightforward, right? So we need to sleep, we need to rest, we need to fuel well, move our bodies more gently, give our body what it needs to recover, and it will. Physical fatigue responds to physical care. That is its nature. The signals are fairly clear too. You feel heavy in your body, your muscles ache or feel slow, your reflexes are dull, you don't think as clearly, you're more reactive. You want to lie down, and when you do, it actually helps. Fatigue, physical fatigue, comes from also not doing these things, right? So when we have been neglecting our self-care, we will often feel that physical fatigue. Not just because we have exerted ourselves so much. I want to make that clear because I think it's important to remember. Yes, physical fatigue can come from pushing out so many resources, but it can also come from not pushing out enough resources, if that makes sense, right? When we're just stagnant in our life, we're not eating well, we're not moving, we're not doing things that excite us, we're not putting ourselves to bed at a reasonable time. It can work either way. But emotional fatigue is different. It's the exhaustion that accumulates from carrying things like grief, like worry, like unprocessed feelings, chronic stress, lots of negative self-narrative, relationship strain, the invisible labor of holding everyone and everything together. It's the kind of tired that sleep or those other things that I mentioned in self-care, they don't really fix. You can get 8 hours of sleep and wake up just as depleted as when you went to bed, when you're emotionally fatigued. Because the tiredness isn't in your muscles. It's in your nervous system, your emotional reserves. The part of you that's been carrying and managing for so long that it just feels like a well that's run dry. And the signals to emotional fatigue are subtler, but still distinct. You feel a heaviness that isn't quite physical. Small things feel disproportionately hard. You're irritable or really emotionally flat in ways that don't match your circumstances. You feel disconnected from yourself, from the people you love, from the things that used to matter to you. You're going through the motions of your daily life, but you're not really in them. And here's the key differentiator, is that rest alone doesn't relieve it. You can sleep for 9 hours and still wake up feeling like you're dragging something really heavy behind you. I keep trying to, when people ask how I am, I'm like, I'm tired, but I'm not tired in a way that like sleep is going to correct. I'm bone tired. I'm mentally and emotionally tired. And here's where the real damage happens, right? Is when we misidentify emotional fatigue as physical fatigue. We reach for physical solutions, a workout, a stricter diet, a new supplement, an earlier bedtime. And then we feel frustrated on the other side of that, even ashamed when none of it works. Because of course it doesn't work. You cannot outtrain a deep sense of disconnection. You cannot eat your way out of a grief that you haven't processed. A healthier diet isn't going to solve 10 years of career dissatisfaction. The more exercise is not going to fill the relational void that's been quietly growing. The solution has to match the problem. And if we haven't correctly identified the problem, we're pouring our energy into the wrong well. And I've seen this just happen time and time again in my coaching practice, right? Where inevitably, a woman always wants to start working with me to improve her diet and exercise. Maybe less so now because I think I've changed the conversation so much. But I think when I was still very much like emerging from the throes of the fat loss world, a lot of people were still coming to me for diet and exercise advice. And after just spending like half an hour on the phone with them, it was so clear that the fatigue they were trying to solve wasn't often a diet and exercise problem. It was something unrelated to diet and exercise. It was the fact that they were constantly beating themselves up in their head. It was, the marriage that had been breaking down for years that they were, trying to use, reshaping their physiology to try to fix. So often I have seen women try to use a physical solution to an emotional problem. And I'm not saying that self-care doesn't help us on an emotional front. Of course it does. But it usually takes more than the basics of self-care to resolve. So here's what I want you to sit with today. The next time you feel that deep, persistent tiredness, that exhaustion, the kind that doesn't quite make sense given how you've been taking care of yourself, ask yourself honestly, is this my body asking for rest? Or is this asking that something needs to be felt or processed or addressed? Because I think there's like even an emotional fatigue that can come from just not having enough joy in our life, enough connection in our life, right? That's not a physical fatigue. That's a feeling flat about life fatigue. But asking that question, is this something else? Is this emotional or is this physical? It can change everything. And tomorrow we're going to talk about what to actually do with these two kinds of fatigue, because the response, just like the experience, needs to be different. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.